Kronos Approver Training Video. For printable step-by-step directions, see the Kronos Approver Guide. This video and the Kronos Approver Guide complement each other. This video shows how you as a Kronos Approver approve or reject timesheet change requests, approve or reject time-off requests, approve timesheets using the approval checklist. This video training also shows how you as an approver may correct previously approved timesheets, designate a backup approver, and run Kronos reports. Before we get into those topics, however, we'll consider some highlights of this training video. For directions on logging into Kronos, see page 3 of the Approver Guide. On that page are also directions for downloading the Kronos app. Here are some highlights of this approver training. Approvers must complete timesheet approvals using the 5-step approval checklist. This approval checklist replaces other previous means of approving timesheets. If a timekeeper or approver enters a missed punch on an employee's behalf, they must upload to Kronos the approver's written or email approval of the missed punch. Timekeepers are to account for employees' scheduled hours per week and to take steps to address any shortfalls. With your written or email approval, the timekeeper enters any shortfall amount for each week as able. Don't change an employee's Kronos clock punches, except to correct clear and obvious errors. You'll sometimes need to reject timesheet change requests. Some reasons for why you need to reject timesheet change requests are listed on page 5 of the Kronos Approver Guide. The Kronos area of the Treasurer's Office cannot approve your employees' timesheets. Email Kronos at columbus.k12.oh.us to request the addition or removal of a timekeeper for your school or department. Employees who use Kronos and who do not use Red Rover to report absences must use Kronos self-service to report their absences. If an employee who normally uses Red Rover to report their absences fails to report an absence using Red Rover, they must use Kronos self-service to report their absence. Don't require employees to turn in paper absence forms for the purpose of timekeepers or others entering those absences into Kronos. The exception to this guideline is restricted time-off codes, which are not available for employees to select using Kronos self-service. And for some examples of those, see page 7 of the Kronos Timekeeper Guide. You'll receive an email notification each time an employee submits a timesheet change request to you for approval. The email notification will look like the example here. It will note who it's from, a brief description of what it's for, such as an add punch in or add punch out, the date that they're requesting it for, and then a comment from the employee. To approve a request from an email, click the login link, which will take you to your Kronos to-do items.
The link in the email won't take you to the specific request, but rather to your Kronos My To-Do items, which will display all of your employees' unapproved requests, as well as any unapproved timesheets. There may be more than one page of notifications, such as in this example. If so, and the timesheet request you wish to approve is not listed on the first page, click the right-facing arrow below My To-Do items to scroll through the pages until you locate the request you wish to approve or reject. You can click the left-facing arrow to go back. Once you locate the timesheet change request you wish to approve or reject, select it by clicking the Timesheet Change Request box or by clicking the checkbox next to the timesheet change request. You can see more of the details of the request by scrolling down the timesheet change request. We can see that the request was for an add punch in for 8 a.m. on November 4th, 2024. If you wanted to see that day's entries, you can scroll back up and click Open Timesheet, and then scroll down to the date for the request, in this case, Monday, November 4th. And here I can see that there indeed is a missed punch for that day. Click the back arrow to go back to your My To-Do items, and then click Approve.
Another example of a request. So in this request, Jack Valance has submitted a modified cost center If I scroll down, I can see that this is to change the lunch break from 30 minutes to 0 minutes. In effect, canceling his lunch. And to see the comment for that, I just click comment field and I see his comment that he worked through lunch. In this case, I previously said that was okay. So I click approve, you click approve again, and now that has canceled his lunch break. So that's how you can go through these different timesheet change requests and time off requests and either approve or reject them. If you supervise a number of employees, you may receive a number of these emails noting timesheet change requests. Some approvers choose to check their Kronos My To-Do items every day or two, rather than just clicking each link every time they receive an email. And you can do this by logging into Kronos and clicking the bell icon, and that takes you to the same place that that link in the email does. So here you can go in and check if there are any requests, and then either approve or reject those. In addition to doing that, there is another option for how you can approve outstanding timesheet change requests. And you can do that by clicking the Manager Self-Service area and then scroll down just a little bit until you see Pending Timesheet Change Requests. Then click the words Pending Timesheet Change Requests, and it's very important that you actually click the words in order to see the Approve and Reject buttons come up. The advantage of this report is you can approve or reject multiple requests simultaneously. You can do that by checking multiple boxes and then clicking Approve or Reject. Of course, you can only take one action, approve or reject, for a selected group of requests. So in this example, I looked through these requests and I want to approve 2 of those. I can just click the boxes next to those, select approve, and then click approve again, and both of those are approved simultaneously. Sometimes when you try to approve a request, you may receive an error message. We're going to look at some possible error messages you might receive. This one, I click approve, and I get this message: could not punch out in less than 3 minutes from previous punch. What does that mean? Jenny Ramcharan here has made a request for a punch out at 4:30 p.m. on 10:30. I click the pencil icon to open up her timesheet and look at 10:30. I see that she already has a punch out at 4:29 p.m. So the system is not going to let an approver approve this request because it would result in a duplicate punch. So in this circumstance, you would want to select the request and then click reject and note duplicate request. And it's a duplicate even if it's 1 or 2 minutes off from the original request, because Kronos views any request within that time frame as a duplicate. Sometimes there are other reasons you need to reject a request, even if Kronos would allow the request. Reject timesheet change requests if an employee is trying to request time off using an add time entry request or add punch request. An example is shown here. The employee is trying to request an add time entry, and they note sick today, use personal illness. If you as the approver approve this request, the employee would get credit for working that day, and no time off would be deducted from their accrual balances. In other words, they would incorrectly update their timesheet. So that's why you would want to reject any pending timesheet change requests in which the employee tries to request time off. Instead, they should request time off using a Kronos time off request. Another reason to reject a timesheet change request is if an employee didn't enter a valid request comment for an add punch request. An add punch request is shown below here under action type, and it can be either for an add punch in or an add punch out. An employee is supposed to enter the reason for an add punch request in the comment field. It can be a simple comment, but it's supposed to reflect the reason for why they're making the request. For example, forgot to punch, forgot card, or some other reason for why they're making this request instead of using the Kronos clocks. Some employees have entered a period, NA, or some other non-reason in the comment field, and these are actual requests here. So reject any such requests for add punches, and note in the rejection comment, enter reason for request in the comment field. Another reason to reject a request is if an employee submitted a punch request with AM or PM noted incorrectly. And we'll look at an example in the following video clip for how to deal with that situation. So in this example, the employee Jenny Ramcharan has made a request for the date of 10/28 for an ad punch out at 4:30 a.m. Based on your knowledge of Jenny's work schedule, you know that she doesn't typically work at 4:30 a.m. Click the pencil icon to open up her timesheet. You see that she was probably meaning to put in a PM instead of an AM. So in this case, select it, click reject. And now you've cleared out all your pending timesheet change requests.
You'll receive an email notification each time an employee submits a time off request to you for approval. Here's an example of such an email notification. The link in the email won't take you to the specific request, but rather to your Kronos My To-Do items, which will display all of your employees' unapproved requests, as well as any unapproved timesheets. Once you locate the time off request you wish to approve or reject, select it by clicking the request or clicking the checkbox next to the request. You can scroll down to see more of the detail for the request. In this case, the employee Jack Valance wants to use personal leave for November 5th, 2024. If you want to see the employee's timesheet for that day, you can click Open Timesheet, and then scroll down to the particular day that's requested. And here you can see that Jack Valance does not have a time record for that day. So I click the back arrow to go back, and then I click Approve. I click Approve again, and now his timesheet is updated with that time off record. You can also access all outstanding time off requests by going to the Manager Self-Service area and then scrolling down the page to All Open Time Off Requests for Approval. Click the words All Open to open this report. Only by opening the report will you see the Approve and Reject buttons. The advantage of this report is you can approve or reject multiple requests simultaneously. You can do that by checking multiple boxes and then clicking Approve or Reject. In this case, I see that there are 3 different time off requests for Ashton for 3 different days. I check his timesheet by clicking the little timesheet icon, and I see that there are indeed 3 days that have missed day flags and no time records. I click the back arrow to go back to the All Open report. I select the checkbox next to each of those records, and then I click Approve. Click Approve again, and now all 3 of those requests have been simultaneously approved, and all those records have been added to his timesheet. We'll now look at a couple of situations you may encounter with time off requests and how to deal with them. Layla Rivers has submitted a time off request for sick leave personal illness for 2 hours for November 4th, 2024. I remember her mentioning that to me and that it was for a doctor's appointment for the beginning of her day. So I click the checkbox and then I click Approve. I click Approve again and I get the following message. The time off requested, which is 2 hours, plus the time worked that day, which is 5 hours and 30 minutes, exceeds Layla's standard hours per day as a building site, which is 7 hours. It exceeds it by 1/2 hour. In this message, it gives me some options. Never click this box to remove hours worked. In this case, click Cancel. And what we want to do is change the time off requested from 2 hours to 1 hour and 30 minutes so that the time off requested plus the hours worked equals her standard hours per day. And to do this, I click the airplane icon, and here under total hours, I click that and enter, in this case, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Click Modify Request. And now I go ahead and click the checkbox next to a record and then click Approve.
A message pops up which looks to be the same message as earlier. However, there's a big difference. This message doesn't say exceed in reference to the employee's standard hours per day, so the time off request can be approved.
And so I click Approve Time Off Request and then Submit. In the final example, we see that Lorna Sharp has requested 8 hours of vacation for 10/30/2024. I click the checkbox and then click Approve again. It notes that there are 8 regular hours listed for her for 10/30/24. So I click Cancel, and then I open her timesheet. And I see that indeed she did work 8 hours that day. So I click the back arrow, and apparently she planned to take vacation, but then decided to work. So I select the time off request by clicking the checkbox. I click reject. I note worked that day, and then click reject again. So those are some examples of approving time off requests and dealing with different situations you may encounter with time off requests.
Kronos approvers must approve all timesheets shortly after the end of each pay period and before 11:59 p.m. of the Monday following the end of the pay period. Timesheets are locked for editing or approving on the Wednesday following the end of each pay period, unless noted otherwise by the Kronos area, such as before holiday breaks. When a pay period is locked, timesheets can no longer be approved in Kronos. There is a 5-step process to approving timesheets each pay period. It's important to complete the steps in order. Completing steps out of sequence may result in errors. To begin the process of approvals, click the Approver Checklist tab. The first step is to approve or reject all time off requests for the pay period. This step is important because you can't approve a timesheet if there are any outstanding time off requests for the pay period. These requests are listed in the first block, all open, with the report name Time Off Requests and a reference to a pay period. If no time off requests are listed in this box, you can go to step 2, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. In our example, there are time off requests. To approve or reject these requests, you must click the words All Open. Only after doing so will you see the Approve and Reject buttons. In this case, there are 4 time off requests. To approve them all, I click the checkbox under Page and then select Approve. I click Approve again. In some cases, you'll get this box titled Items to Resolve. You'll generally receive this box if the employee has other time listed for the day in which they're requesting time off. Never click this checkbox noting Remove Hours from the day worked. Either click Approve Time Off Request or Skip. In this case, we'll click Skip for both of these and then click Submit. So to approve the time off requests, which did not have any items to resolve. And now I can look into these time off requests a little bit more. So in this case, there's a request for 4 hours for 11/12/2024. I click the open timesheet box. Then I look at November 12th, and I see that the employee has 4 hours worked. They're an 8-hour-a-day employee. So a 4-hour time off request is okay. I click the checkbox and then I click Approve. Again, I get the items to resolve. And in this instance, it's more of an informational note, just letting me know that there's time worked on that day. So I click Approve Request and then Submit. So now we're down to 1 time off request that needs approved or rejected. Here there's a request for 2 hours for November 13th. The comment notes doctor's appointment. I click the timesheet. I look at November 13th and I see that the employee worked 6.5 hours that day. So if I approve 2 hours, that would actually give them 8.5 hours of combined work and time off for the day, which would be a half hour more than their standard hours per day. I click the back arrow, and in this case, I need to reduce the amount of time off requested. So I click this box, Review Modified Time Off Requests, a little airplane on a calendar icon, and I change 2 hours to 1.5 hours, and then click Modify Request, and I click OK. And now the amount of time that they're requesting, 1.5 hours, plus the time that they've worked for the day, 6.5 hours, will equal their standard hours per day. It won't be over that amount. So I click the checkbox next to the record and then click Approve. Again, I get the informational note that they have 6.5 hours listed for the day, but I know that the amount that they've requested off is only 1.5 hours, for a total of 8 hours. So I click Approve Time Off Requests and then click Submit. So that's step number 1. Click the back arrow to go back to the approval checklist. Step number 2 is approving or rejecting all timesheet change requests. These requests are listed in the second block from the top, pending timesheet change requests. This step is important because you can't approve a timesheet if there are any outstanding timesheet change requests for the pay period. Employees may submit timesheet change requests to report missed punches, canceled lunch deductions, and other such requests, such as the conversion of overtime to comp time. If no timesheet change requests were listed in this box, you could skip and go directly to step 3. However, in our example, there are timesheet change requests. To approve or reject these change requests, you must click these words, pending timesheet change requests, to open the report. Only after doing so will you see the approve and reject buttons. So in this case, I'll click the checkbox under page in order to try to approve all of these requests, and then I'll click approve. In this video segment, you are shown how to click the checkbox to select all timesheet change requests if you wish to approve them all at the same time. However, there is a caution. Look before you click approve. Sometimes you'll need to reject timesheet change requests. For more information on when to reject a timesheet change request, see page 5 of the Kronos Approver Guide and the video segment Approving or Rejecting Timesheet Change Requests. So in this case, I get one error message. It says punch for Jenny Ramtran cannot be executed, duplicate punch. The punch request is for 11/12/2024 for 4:30 p.m. If I click the pencil icon, I can open the timesheet, verify that indeed there is a punch there for 4:30 p.m. I click the back arrow. And in this case, because it's a duplicate, I click the checkbox next to the record and then click reject. For duplicates, I simply note duplicate request and then click reject again. And that clears out all the pending timesheet change requests. I click the back arrow and now I can go to step number 3. Scroll down to the exceptions box. And step 3 is checking for missed punch exceptions and missed day exceptions listed here for any timesheets. Now this step is important because you can't approve a timesheet if there are any missed punch exceptions. The Kronos Timekeeper Guide has instructions for timekeepers for following up with employees regarding such exceptions. That follow-up consists of requesting employees with any exceptions to submit Kronos requests to clear those exceptions. If you have any exceptions here, double check with the timekeeper that they've done such follow-up for any of these remaining exceptions. Then also you may wish to follow up with the employees yourself. Even if there are exceptions remaining, and there are not in this case, you can proceed to step 4. If employees submit requests later on to clear exceptions after you've completed the approval checklist, assuming it's prior to when Kronos is locked for the pay period, which, except for holiday breaks, occurs on the Wednesday after a pay period ends, you may go through the approval checklist again to approve their requests and their timesheets. I now scroll down to the area called All Timesheets and then the report name of Submitting Rejected and Open Timesheets. And this is step number 4. This step is important because you can't approve a timesheet if it's not in a submitted status. As you see here in this example, the approval state is not in a submitted status, so I can't approve it. Before holiday breaks, when you're approving before a pay period ends, all of your timesheets will not be in a submitted status. So this makes this step even more important for holiday breaks. However, if no records are listed here, then you can go directly to step number 5, which is the actual approval of timesheets, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. If there are records listed here, as there are in this example, click the words All Timesheets. Only after clicking the words All Timesheets will you see the View, Submit, Approve, and Reject buttons. Click the checkbox underneath Page, click All on Report, and then click Submit. Click Submit again, and then click the back arrow next to All Timesheets. And now we're ready for the 5th and final step, the approval of timesheets. Scroll to the very last block on the approval checklist page. And this one is called All Timesheets with a report name of Approval Report. Click the words all timesheets to open this report. Only after clicking the words all timesheets will you see the buttons for view, submit, approve, and reject. Let's talk a little bit about the timesheet review process. Timekeepers are instructed, as noted in the Kronos Timekeeper Guide, to review timesheets and account for employees' scheduled hours per week, and to take steps to address any shortfalls. For example, if an employee is scheduled to work 40 hours per week, the timekeeper checks to see that the employee's paid and unpaid hours for each of the 2 weeks of the pay period totals 40 hours or more. If not, then the timekeeper takes follow-up steps, which may include obtaining approval from you to enter AWOL for any unexcused absence periods. Your review of timesheets includes double-checking that this timekeeper review occurred and performing those steps if your timekeeper did not, perhaps because they were absent. It also includes scanning the Count Hours column to see if the number of hours listed for each employee seems reasonable. You may also want to look at the total overtime column. If you want to take a closer look at a particular timesheet, click the pencil icon next to the record to open that timesheet. I'll click the back arrow to go back to the approval report. To approve all the timesheets, I click the checkbox underneath Page, select All on Report, and then click Approve. I click Approve again. And now I've successfully approved all timesheets for my employees who have any time listed for that pay period. You can correct a timesheet you've previously approved prior to when the pay period has been locked for editing, which occurs on the Wednesday following the end of a pay period, unless noted otherwise by the Kronos area, such as before holiday breaks. After a pay period has been locked for editing, approvers can't correct timesheets. They must email correction requests to payroll.
Click in the search area, which is located in the top right part of your screen, and type in the employee number of the employee whose timesheet you wish to correct. The employee's name will pop up. Click the employee's name. Then click Utilities and click Current Timesheet. Generally, the timesheet you're trying to correct is from the previous pay period. To go to that timesheet, click the left-facing arrow next to the calendar icon. If there is no Reject button on the timesheet, it means the pay period has been locked for editing or approving. In that case, you must email any timesheet corrections to payroll. In this example, there is a Reject button, meaning the pay period has not been locked. Click Reject. Enter a brief comment noting why you're rejecting the timesheet. Then click Reject again. Edit the timesheet as needed. In this example, it was a half-hour early release day for school employees before winter break, and that early release time had not been added to the employee's timesheet before it was first approved. So I scroll down to that day, and in this example, I add the half hour of time. After you've made the edits, click Save. Next, click Submit, click Submit again, click OK, and finally, you must reapprove the timesheet. So click Approve, and then Approve again. And the timesheet has been successfully approved.
Approvers must ensure their employees' timesheets are approved. This must occur even if they are not available to approve the timesheets. Designating a backup approver helps ensure time cards are always approved. You may designate another administrator within your school or department as a backup approver. A backup approver should not be used to approve timesheet change requests, time off requests, and timesheets for a Kronos approver who is present at work. To select a backup approver, click the 3 horizontal lines next to the UKG logo. Then click My HR and Delegations. Then click Add New. Here you can type in the employee number if you know it, and then click the employee's name to select them. If you don't know the employee's number, you can type in the employee's first or last name,
and then choose the employee that you wish to be your backup. Alternatively, you can click the icon with the magnifying glass on the piece of paper. You can use the right arrow to go through the different pages until you find the name of the person you wish to select. If you can't locate the employee that you wish to be your backup approver, please email Kronos at columbus.k12.oh.us and note the employee's full name and their employee number. Keep in mind, only administrators are available for selection. In this example, I'm selecting Jonathan Manley as the backup approver. After selecting the employee, click the down arrow under workflow type, and then choose all workflows. If you're selecting the person to be your backup for the current day forward, then enter the current day in the date from column. You can do that by either typing it in or clicking the calendar icon and selecting it. Otherwise, select the date you wish the person to begin being your backup approver. In this case, Ansel is going to be out on surgical leave from December 2nd through January 10th. So he selects 12/2/2024 in the date from field. In the date to field, select the date you want the backup approval to terminate. In this example, it's when Hansel comes back from surgical leave on January 10th, 2025. Leave the workflow group blank, then click Add. The backup approver will get all of the notifications that you as an approver receive and will be able to approve or reject all requests and approve timesheets just as you can. And finally, if you want to remove someone from being a backup approver, simply go to the three horizontal lines next to the UKG logo, go to My HR Delegations, and then click the trash can icon next to the employee's record and click Delete. To access Kronos reports, click the Manager Self-Service tab, and then scroll to the bottom of that page. You'll see a section called My Saved Reports. The report names with the descriptions explain their use. You can see all the reports in this area by clicking the down arrow on the right side and scrolling down. To run a report, click the play button next to the listing. Depending on the report and the number of employees being reported on, the report may take up to several minutes to run. For schools and smaller departments, most reports will run in less than a minute. To filter your report to show a particular employee, click in the Employee ID field area and then enter their employee number in the Employee ID field and press Enter. To change the report's date parameters, click the calendar icon, then click the down arrow under Time Entry Date and make a selection. Calendar range will show a number of different options. In this case, I'll choose Date Range, and I'll select a start and end date. Then click Apply. To export the results, click the ellipsis located near the top right part of the report. Then click Export. Click the down arrow under Export File As and select the file type. In this case, I'll select Cell 2007, and then click Export. The report will generate. If you wish to save a custom report you've made, you can do so by clicking the ellipsis, then clicking Save View As. Under Name, change the report title. When naming your report, please keep in mind that your report titles can be seen by other approvers and timekeepers. However, unless they are a timekeeper or backup approver for your group, or have high-level central office Kronos access, they won't be able to see the data in your report. So after renaming your report, click Save. You can find your saved reports by clicking the three horizontal lines next to the UKG logo, then clicking My Info, then My Reports, and finally My Saved Reports. To see the reports that only you have created, under Other Settings, click the check mark to turn that off so that you see only the reports that you have created. In this case, the missed punch request for employee 110000. To go back to the standard reports, click the UKG logo, Quick Manager self-service, and then scroll all the way to the bottom. As noted at the beginning of this segment on reports, the report names and descriptions within the My Saved Report section are self-explanatory regarding the data they'll provide. However, I do want to highlight several reports. The Missed Punch Requests report will show all requests for missed punches by your staff over the past year. You may wish to use this report to see if employees are frequently submitting missed punch requests. The Overtime and Extra Service report can be helpful for monitoring these areas. The Specified Sick and Unpaid Leave usage for the past year may assist you in looking at those particular areas of absence usage. The Late In and Late Out reports show whether employees clocked in or out more than 5 minutes after their scheduled start or end times as listed in Kronos. Of course, keep in mind that if an employee has a bulk schedule in Kronos with no start or stop times listed, this report will not show any late entries for such employees. These two reports, Late In and Late Out, exclude days which have time off entries, such as sick or personal leave, since in some cases, those may be the reason why a person is late. The final report I'd like to draw your attention to is the Clocked Usage report. This report shows the locations your staff clocked in or out at for the past year. It also shows the exact times that they punched in and out. There is much more that can be shown in regards to Kronos reports, but to keep it simple, that's where we'll stop for this video segment.
To conclude, on this page is a listing of your Kronos contacts. For help with login issues, contact the IT help desk at 8425. For other Kronos-related issues, email kronos@columbus.k12.oh.us.